first of all, I'd like to thank each and every one of you because this has really been something that um, was really needed in our country right now. It's very it's very daunting to feel like you have to navigate this alone, and we really do need community leaders and professionals to guide us and help us guide those that need guiding. So from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for your efforts, for just putting on these webinars.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is there any recommendations that you have for for the listeners today, that some steps that people could start to take to look at protecting their mental well-being and to help them possibly avoid that impact that we say is possibly going to come, and that's that post-traumatic syndrome?
Well, I think first of all, it's verbiage, language. I think when we use the expression mental health, it's besides it being quote unquote stigmatizing, that it puts people more so in an alarm state. So we're really looking at behavioral health. How are they behaving in the context of what's going on? So looking at the behaviors, and when we look at behaviors, we're not looking at quote unquote therapizing people at this juncture. That may come later on if it need be. But right now we're looking at just the making sure people have their regular needs. People are tethered or anchored or grounded to just being able to do some regular things. One of the most important things is getting sleep. I'm saying, so how are people sleeping? That's one of the primary things people want to know. Are they having early awakenings? Are they having delayed onset of sleep? I mean, those kind of things we can address initially. Besides sleep, are they having any physiological issues like gustatory issues? They're having problems eating, or are they having problems eating, problems eliminating? Those are peculiarly of concern at this juncture. So I would start in that regard. I mean, are they using substances? Whether or not, it's not about halal and haram. I mean, it is, but it's not. I mean, in terms of the context, are they using substances? They may have been free of substance use. I mean, alcohol, drugs, or whatever, some time ago. But this onset of not knowing how to respond to the stimulus or distress of the situation may take them back to using illicit drugs or alcohol. So we want to address those kind of issues right now to try to see, okay, well, how can they move from a quote unquote maladaptive response to the issue towards an adaptive one? What can they do adaptively? So one of the things they can do adaptively is movement. I mean, everyone has heard about the fight, flight, or freeze, but when there's an onset of a particular trauma or a threat or a scare of any sort, but in that response, there's also embedded therein a remedy of sorts. People need to be moving. One of the things about trauma is the fact that people feel locked in, locked down. They can't move. Movement is therapeutically recommended for people to move, and I think that's what we see. And we might wonder, why is not everybody staying at home? But some people just got to get out. I mean, while it may be against the recommendations of the CDC and the like, but people need to have movement. When people have emotions, an emotion, I read somewhere, It comes from a French word which means to get out or to move. Likewise, we need to have movement. You know what I'm saying? And movement doesn't need to be a marathon race or a bicycle chase or whatever like that, but it has to be mindfully engaging. I think, perspective, I mean, it's overwhelming. Mostly everyone has been overwhelmed, but I think we should constantly remember that Allah is al-Muhit. I'm saying He is the all-encompassing. There's no occurrence, no situation, an incident or critical incident that it goes beyond His expansive rahmah, His expansive compassion, His expansive power. I'm saying, as well as His awareness. So I think that to keep things in perspective, that our sense of trauma, being traumatized or being stressed is overwhelming, but we can dilute that in the realization that Allah is Rahman, Allah is Latif, Allah is Al-Wadud, the loving, and that is real. That's not just imaginary, but for ourselves to be kind, as the sister said, to be kind to ourselves and be kind to each other. I mean, and to remember, as we know in Quran, it said, "Ala bidhikrillahi tatma'innu qulub." Doesn't the remembrance of Allah quell the hearts? Remembering Allah often, remembering Allah in this situation often, and us being very expressive about that. I'm not trying to, I guess you call it, evangelize or anything like that, but nonetheless, that from the center of our values, which is our faith tradition, that from there comes a lot of strength. I'm saying from there comes our strength, and that in this situation, as someone really recently said, we oftentimes say, only when faced with death or hear the news of a death do we say, "Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un." However, we're all in a state of movement because the ayat start with Allah talking about loss of property, loss of wealth, and loss of lives. All of that, in any time, we should remember Allah, that we're close to Him, that He has breathed into us. He said He's closer to us than our jugular veins. So we're not alone. We're not alone. It may seem to be that way, but we're not alone.